Today we're watching Jordan Peterson, Why Being Creative is Problematic and Even a Curse. Strong title. All right, let's get into it.
You hear very frequently people say things like everyone's creative. It's like, that's wrong, okay? It's wrong. It's just as wrong as saying that everyone's extroverted. First of all, you have to be pretty damn smart to be creative, because otherwise you're just going to get to where other people have already got, and that's not creative by definition. So
I also love how analytical Jordan Peterson is sometimes. He's like, that's wrong. I love that.
So being fast and being out there at the front of things really makes a difference. And then you also have to have these divergent thinking capabilities, and that's part of your trait structure. And creative people are really different than non-creative people. Partly because, for example, they're highly motivated to do creative things and to experience novelty and to chase down aesthetic experiences and to attend movies and to read fiction and to go to museums and to enjoy poetry and to enjoy music that's not conventional music, for example. These aren't trivial differences.
This is true. Creative people are very cool. So at least he's given us that.
And so it's a real misstatement to make the proposition that everyone's creative. It's just simply not the case. It's a matter of wishful thinking. It's like saying that everyone's intelligent. It's like, well, if everyone's intelligent, then the term loses all of its meaning. Because any term that you can apply to every member of a category has absolutely no meaning. Now, that doesn't, and the other thing you want to be thinking about here is that don't be thinking that creativity is such a good thing. It's a high risk, high return strategy. So if you're creative, you just try this. There's creative people in this room, man. You guys are going to have a hell of a time monetizing your creativity. It's virtually impossible. It's really, really difficult because, first of all, let's say you make an original product. You think the world...
I think this is a difficult conversation for a lot of people because it's so glamorized and romanticized to be a creative or to be an artist. So it's kind of viewed as like, oh yeah, and you do like one cool creative thing and all of a sudden you're an artist and everything is easy after that one. In reality, it's like, I mean, you probably got to be doing event photography and all these other side jobs just to stay afloat and be able to do your art and fund your art. It's tough, man. And I think a lot of people look at it from the outside in with just this perspective or this idea that it's meant to be this kind of like fun roller coaster, when in reality it's very stressful. It's very risky. Like you said, it's high risk, high reward, because if you don't do it, you'll never know. But at the same time, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't, So I like that the title does say it's kind of a curse, because you can't sleep at night knowing that you never went after that thing or that you never created. But then at the same time, you might have days where you don't put food on the table, or that comes into risk. So you have to have a high tolerance for living a life that might be shaky, where the foundations aren't set in stone, at least in the beginning. You can build up to that, but a lot of people like that stability. And I mean, you guys know it. You get people that are watching this, I'm assuming you're artists, you know this.
Will beat a pathway to your door if you build a better mousetrap. It's like, that's complete rubbish. It isn't true in the least. If you make a good creative product, you've probably solved about 5% of your problem. Because then you have marketing, which is insanely difficult.
This is what I said in the other video where I talked about 50% is showing up, 40% is the people you know, and then literally 10% is the actual product. Because it doesn't matter how good the actual product is if you don't have people who you can sell it to, or people that are going to fund you to create it, because everybody in the world has a cool idea, but they need money to do it. Why should somebody bet on you? Again, from a film perspective, it's like, you want to make a film, cool, or you have a script or something like that, okay. Why should I fund your film? Like, why is it important? Why can it be important to me?
And then you have
Stuff.
sales, and then you have customer support, and then you have to build an organization, and you have to, if it's really novel, you have to tell people what the hell the thing is. You know, we built this future authoring program, right, and it's available for people online. So how do you market that? No one knows what that is, and that's a real problem. If you write a book, well, then you have the problem that another million people have also written a book. But if you produce something that's completely new and doesn't have a category, people can't search for it online. How are they going to find it? So you just have, and then you have pricing problems, and it's really unbelievably difficult to produce something creative and then monetize it. And even worse, if you're the creative person, let's say...
This is making me regret even attempting to have a YouTube channel.
You have a spectacular invention. You've got no money, right? You've got no customers. Those are big problems. And so maybe you go and you find a venture capitalist. We start with family and friends, because that's how it works. You raise money for your product. You raise money from your family and friends. That's assuming you have family and friends that have some money and that they're going to give it to you. And most people aren't in that situation. So it's a terrible barrier right off the bat. And then, of course, you're putting your family and friends at substantial financial risk, because the probability that your stupid idea is going to make money is virtually zero, even if it's a really brilliant idea. And so then let's say, well, you get past family and friends and you get venture capitalists involved, because that's often the next step, or an angel investor. There's steps in building a business. Family and friends, angel investor, that's some rich guy that you've happened to meet, some way, who's into this sort of thing and is willing to provide you with some money to get your product off the ground.
But you don't own it.
How much of your product is that person going to take? Well, most of it. Most of it. And then if you get a venture, and no wonder, because, you know, you don't have any money. How are you going to bargain for control over your product? He'll just say, well, do you want the money or not? And if your answer is no, then he'll go and do something else with his money. It's not like there's no shortage of things that you can do with your money. There's a million things you can do with it. So you're not in a great bargaining position. And then if you get venture capitalists involved, they'll take another big chunk, and maybe if they're not very straight with you, they'll just throw you out. Because maybe by that point in the company's development, you're nothing but a pain in the neck, because what do you know about marketing?
That's what they did to Steve Jobs, right? They like kicked him out of like his own company. That stuff is real, man. It's kind of crazy to think about.
And sales and customer service and building an organization and running a business, like, you don't have a clue, so why do they need you? So even if you're successful at generating a new idea and you put it into a business, the probability that you, as the originator of the idea, are going to make some money from it is very, very low. So don't be thinking that creativity is something you would want to curse yourself with. And, you know, whenever I talk to people who are creative, and you guys should listen to this, because I know what I'm talking about. If you happen to be creative, if you're a songwriter or another kind of musician or an artist or any of the other number of things that you might be, find a way to make money and then practice your craft on the side, because you will starve to death otherwise. Now, for some of you that won't be true, but it's a tiny minority. Your best bet is to find a job that will keep body and soul together and parse off some time that you can pursue your creative thing, because then, well, as a long-term strategy, a medium to long-term strategy, it's a better one. But it's got...
I think this goes back to what we talked about in the beginning about, I like how you said it's something that will keep body and soul together, meaning that you don't have to get a job that's going to kill you and make you regret life or something. You know what I mean? Like, you can do something that maybe is indirectly connected to what your passion is, and then, like Peterson says, practice your craft on the side, so then that way you can still be building, and then eventually if that takes off, then you can do that. Obviously this is something everybody knows, but I think people have this idea that it's like it's either the creative path or the 9 to 5, or you don't have to. You can still play the middle.
Incredibly difficult for people, musicians for example, it's incredibly difficult for new musicians to monetize their craft, even if they're really, really good at it.
It's a hard pill to swallow, but I think it's the reality and how you look at being able to make money from creativity. If you're a photographer and you want to take photos, maybe that means you become a wedding photographer, and you can still pursue photography as a passion, but you can make your money from wedding photography and doing event photography. A lot of people do that. If you're in the music industry, maybe it's you work as a producer, helping other artists make music while you still pursue music on the side yourself. There's still a way to play the game if that's the path you want to go. So I think it's just finding that, and like Peterson said, making that connection of body and soul, and being able to fund the lifestyle that you want to live, because that's not the same for everybody, right? Certain people, they see life as work. They see that they have to get a skill, or they have to get a certain job, and then they do that for the rest of their lives, and then they enjoy their weekends. That's the life that they want to live. They can fund that with their work. Other people are more risk takers, and they'd rather take Roy for a joyride, Rick and Morty reference, but you know what I mean? Like, it just depends what you want out of the experience. You have to be a pragmatic dreamer as well. I think as artists, it's hard for us to be pragmatic because we see our dreams as this like huge pedestal and climb, and anything that interferes with that is deemed as like evil or just a temporary distraction. Like, I've met artists that are like, oh man, I could never work like a 9 to 5 matrix slave job or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but how are you going to get studio time? Like, how are you going to fund buying equipment? How are you going to uh, hire a photographer for your shoots? There comes a certain point where you have to be realistic about certain things, and pick up a skill, do something where you can still fund the lifestyle you want in order to hone your craft and live the life you want, while still being able to bring in money. And yeah, I think it's I always think about the Nietzsche quote about give a man a why. I hope I'm not butchering it, by the way, but give a man a why and he can overcome any how. I think if you have a dream industry or a dream career or a dream project you want to do, aim at that and allow everything else will naturally culminate um, and blossom into your life experience, and you'll get there eventually. But um, but to say like I just don't want to work, you're not giving the universe much to go on here. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think anything is possible. You have to put your head down and let the rest do its own thing. Yeah.